Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to JumpCast USA Edition, the podcast that's as American as trick-or-treating and stand your ground laws. We are brought to you by the team behind the award-winning Jump Cut Online. My name is Audrey Fox. I'm your host for today, and I'm joined by my illustrious Jump Cut colleagues, Jeff Zoldi.
Hey.
And Jessica Pena.
Hey.
How are you guys doing today?
Good. I just got off work. Just here kicking back and ready to talk Halloween. Can't wait to get into the Halloween candy debate.
Oh man, controversy. I think we should all be prepared.
Oh, it'll be good. It'll be a good time.
I'm excited. So we have sort of, I guess, what I would call a quasi-Halloween episode for everyone today, because we're definitely going to be talking, we're going to be talking candy. We're going to be talking favorite Halloween movies. We're going to be talking Scream, a great Halloween classic. But I guess because The Lighthouse did not come out as early as many of us expected it to, we are going to be talking about Jojo Rabbit, Taika Waititi's new film, as sort of the centerpiece of the episode. But that's for later. So I guess we should get started. Let's not waste any more time. Well, let's waste a little bit more time, because we should talk a little bit, I think, about maybe some of the entertainment news that's been happening since the last episode aired, just to catch everybody up. One thing that I saw was Matt Reeves' Batman has gotten a lot more casting news. Basically, the big thing is Jonah Hill's out, and Zoe Kravitz and Paul Dano are in as Catwoman and the Riddler, respectively. So that's new. Anybody, Jeff, do you have any thoughts about that?
Oh yeah, it's really exciting. I think especially Paul Dano as the Riddler, he just has such a good nervous energy and stuff, like There'll Be Blood and things like that, and I can't wait to see Robert Pattinson just absolutely kick the crap out of him. He just has this way about him that I think he's gonna bounce off. It seems like Reeves is trying to build almost a younger, more modern style Batman, and so I think the casting he's done so far has been really great.
Yeah, I think, and also with Zoe Kravitz being added to the cast, that cast right now, just as it stands, is perfect with Jeffrey Wright. And the thing about Jonah Hill, I don't think it was ever actually confirmed. I know people took that headline and just ran with it. I don't know if you guys saw those fan art with Jonah Hill as the Riddler or the Penguin, because it wasn't confirmed what his role was at the time. But yeah, now that he's, I don't know what the deal, I guess, fell through, and we got Paul Dano now and Jeffrey Wright, Robert Pattinson, and it looks really good. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm feeling like this is a cool new indie version of Batman. I just dig the vibe a lot.
Yeah.
I think everybody's the vision that I think they're going for is really exciting. So I'm in on it. And then the other kind of weird casting news, not related to Batman at all, but related to our other true American hero, Barney. So yeah, I kind of don't know what to think about this Daniel Kaluuya news that he's going to be doing, or he's in talks to do a Barney movie. I'm hoping it's a Death to Smoochie situation, but TBD, I guess. I don't know yet.
Yeah, he's I guess he's producing it with Mattel Films and them, and let's see. I got the article right here. It says Kaluuya said, quote, "Barney was a ubiquitous figure in many of our childhoods. Then he disappeared into the shadows, left misunderstood. We're excited to explore this compelling modern-day hero and see if his message of 'I love you, you love me' can stand the test of time."
Yeah, I mean, I guess you have my attention. Let's do it. And then I guess the big other news sort of is Robert Eggers announcing his next project, The Northman, with Alexander Skarsgård and a pretty cool cast. So I'm also very excited for that.
Yeah, he just loves using the word "the" and then tossing just a regular word out behind it for his titles.
Yeah, he's.
But I mean, it's so exciting. I mean, it's gonna be this is gonna be a Viking movie, isn't it?
I mean, the people, I guess, in talks for it are you've got my attention. Bill Skarsgård, I believe, and Nicole Kidman, Willem Dafoe, who was just seen in The Lighthouse opening this weekend, and Anya Taylor-Joy, I believe.
Yeah, and I mean it's cool that he's using like he's starting to develop like people that he like works with repeatedly, like Anya Taylor-Joy and like Willem Dafoe. I love when directors do that.
Yeah, it's cool. It speaks a lot to, I think, the actors, in that they're not such annoying divas, like, because directors want to keep working with them. So I always like that when you see actors work with the same directors over and over again. And Robert Eggers is sort of like allergic to modern day speech, isn't he? Because this is going to be the third film of his that's going to be very period dialogue esque. Yeah, I feel like those are kind of the highlights of what I was thinking of in terms of news. So we should probably get into Halloween. It's coming up.
Yeah.
It's exciting. I'm a big Halloween person. What do you guys think of as your sort of like go-to Halloween movie that maybe it's not like the best horror movie of all time, but it's the one that you like go to year after year to kind of rewatch to get into the Halloween spirit?
I think right off the bat, I always love to just have like a Chucky marathon at home. I like love Chucky. I'm obsessed, and so I just watch all those films. And I think Nightmare on Elm Street is another one I like to revisit, especially the first one. But yeah, I think those are like the two main ones I always rewatch every year.
Those are quality ones. I just watched Chucky for the first time like last week. So, yeah, the first and the second ones, I sort of just like binged both of them for the first time.
Yeah, I like to check out the I do Nightmare Before Christmas a lot, which I guess is kind of contentious because it's like, is it a Christmas movie? Is it a Halloween movie? It's both, and I think it's just really fun for the season. But I also watch like the original Halloween movie because I think kind of obvious. But it's also just like the scariest movie I've ever seen in my entire life. Like when I was a child, I could not sleep after the first time I saw it. And so I like to relive that trauma every year.
I feel like mine is always Night of the Living Dead.
Ooh.
Sometimes maybe like Return of the Living Dead, but usually Night of the Living Dead. There's something about that black and white atmosphere that I feel like is very Halloween for me. We asked some of our Twitter friends what their favorite Halloween movies are, and we asked for one Halloween movie, by the way, and a lot of people did not obey that rule. They sent us like 10. So thank you for following the rules, everyone. But let's see what people said. At Digital Sneeze said Trick or Treat, which I think makes sense. It hits all those Halloween tropes and traditions, cracking ensemble, and a perfect realized atmosphere. It just sums up the season. And it has the adorable Sam. I think that's a good one. I've never seen it, but I've been meaning to watch it.
Yeah, that one's been on my list forever. I don't think I've ever checked that one out, but I've seen so much about it. So maybe this is the year.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a classic to people. I guess they love that, and I've heard it thrown around like every year around this time. So, but I haven't seen it. Ugh, I need to watch it this year though.
Let's see. Murphy's Boredom says Nightmare on Elm Street, so that's another good one to add to the list. Wicked Sister 69 says has to be the original 1978 Halloween, so tense and freaky and lots of lovely autumnal / pumpkin visuals. So yeah, we're getting a lot of like consensus here. I like it. Underscore cynicism says Yo-Yo The Shining, a cliched answer, but I'm a cliched kind of guy, and I respect that. I think that's fair.
Yeah, and The Shining rules. So
Exactly. Shout out to Mad Tweeter 2014 who agreed with me and said Night of the Living Dead. They said, I find its creepy and chilling atmosphere fits Halloween night oh so right, and I definitely agree. Let's see what else we have here. Our lovely friend Fee said Cabin in the Woods. Tom at Cyberchef, that looks like The Witch. Some of these people just put GIFs, so I'm like trying to figure it out as I'm looking at it. John Bridges says The Thing, Shaun of the Dead, Evil Dead, and Ex Machina, which is fair.
Ex
I think
Machina,
that's fair.
that's interesting.
That's a little controversial, but I'll allow it. Sunday Rain, Duke Spookum, says, quite partial to the following. Sorry, I couldn't pick just one. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, Sinister, The Score Chills My Soul, Eyes Without a Face, and The Thing. Yeah, all solid.
Sinister.
Scary as hell.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say super like underrated there because like some of that Super 8 footage like featured in the film like it creeps me out to think about it. That's a good choice.
Yeah, I like that one. And Valkyrie's blog sent over a list, but broken down by category, which I think is very helpful. So depending on their mood, the OG, Silence of the Lambs, slasher movies, Friday the 13th, werewolf film, Dog Soldiers, vampire, either Queen of the Damned or something like 30 Days of Night, and honorable mention, Happy Death Day, Ready or Not, and The Crow. So we've got a full list there of really solid choices, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's what we got sent over. So thank you, everybody, for chiming in with those additions. I hope that helps everybody come up with a nice little list before Halloween. So while we're talking about Halloween, I feel like we need to address the elephant in the room and talk about fave/least fave Halloween candy, because I think we might have some, maybe like we might end the pod early because we'll be too angry to talk to each other anymore.
Oh gosh, the knives come out with candy.
Jeff, what would you say your favorite and least favorite Halloween candy are?
So my favorite is usually Skittles. I think Skittles are awesome. I just can take an entire like mound of Skittles to the face, like anytime, anywhere. So those are probably my favorite. My least favorite, I feel like it's not too controversial to say that like candy corn is definitely not my favorite. Um, apparently it is.
Sounds like we're coming directly from me here, but fine.
Yeah, I'd say either candy corn, and I think, I do think, like some candies, like Jolly Ranchers. Like I hate Jolly Ranchers. They're so gross. I have no real reason why. I just think they're gross.
Jeff, I liked you up until that point.
Jess, what about you?
I'll start off with my least favorite. I hate candy corn. I'm gonna have to second Jeff there.
God damn it!
It is a sin to humanity, Audrey. I hate it. I can't stand it. I have to see it every year. It just makes me sick. And the mellow cream, like pumpkin candies that they have. Oh no. I hate it. And then my favorite candy, I think it would have to be the Reese's pumpkin. Like the Reese's pumpkin chocolates that come out every year. It's just a Reese's shaped like a pumpkin, or it tries to be shaped like a pumpkin. And I don't know. I think I'm willing to say they taste better than the actual Reese's, like the round cups. It's just creamier to me. I don't know. I don't know what it is about it.
I think it's that peanut butter to chocolate ratio. I think is perfected in the pumpkin. It's because I agree. I think that's my favorite too. I'm gonna defend candy corn. I don't think it's that bad. It's certainly not my favorite, but I think it gets a lot of hate, especially when there's like Necco wafers floating around. Like literally the worst candy ever. I feel like But also, when I was a kid, I grew up in a very religious area, so there were times when we would just get, like, Bible tracts in our, when we went trick-or-treating, so...
Bible what?
Like a little, a sheet that just was like, hey, God stuff. I don't know. I never read them, but it was not candy, I guess is the point, which is, like, a cruelty to children, so... I feel like if you're handing out candy, at least you're in my good graces. But
have any of y'all ever got a toothbrush in your Halloween bag?
Yes, I think so. I'm pretty sure. Like, what is that? Come on.
I also love the stories that come out every year where there's people, like, parents are like, oh, make sure to check your kid's candy for drugs. Like, who the hell has enough money that they're giving away drugs? Like...
Yeah, right? I guess let's get into our Halloween film of choice. We were going to kind of... I don't know, like have a vote to see what movie we were going to talk about, what Halloween movie we wanted to talk about. But then we learned that Jessica had never seen Scream. So we decided that that was what we were going to do. I feel like we were all really excited to get the chance to watch it again and discuss it. So it was perfect. So Scream, for those of you who don't know, is a 1996 film directed by Wes Craven. It stars Neve Campbell and Matthew Lillard and my darling Skeet Ulrich and Henry Winkler for some reason. It's got a pretty good cast. Basically, the central idea of the film is that a year after a teenage girl's mother's death, there's all these mysterious killings happening in her hometown, and she's sort of the central victim in it. And yeah, it's very pop culture-y. It's very meta, which I like a lot. I think I actually saw Scary Movie before I saw Scream, so that kind of like affected my view on it, but I love both of them. So Jess, since this was your first time watching it, what were your thoughts when you saw it?
Oh my gosh, like I think I have a new favorite like horror film for this time of year now because I'd heard of Scream. You know, you hear of Scream, you're like, oh, well, you know, that's what influenced Scary Movie and, you know, everything that came after, you know, all the Scary Movie sequels and such. So I'd never seen Scream, and I was like, I really need to fix this. I need to rectify this problem. And I watched it last night, actually, and I love it. Like you said, Audrey, it's so meta. So, like, there's, what is it, like the 3 rules to, like, every, like, horror film that's, like, commented on by Jamie Kennedy's character, I think. And, oh gosh, it's so meta, so funny, so, I don't know, it's a satire on horror films, like Halloween, and, you know, the such, like, the scary, like, phone caller, you know, you don't know who it is, but it's weird, because, like, at that time, they're using, like, these little cellulars that are, like, sort of dated, and it's, I don't know, it all works, it's quirky, I don't know, there was a mystery to it, because I halfway predicted the ending, and I was like, oh, who is this guy? But I had a great time with it. I really like it.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that it worked out for you, because it would have really sucked if we were doing this. We were like, so what were your thoughts? And you were like, I hated it. Like after we built it up that much. Yeah, I feel like the opening scene in Scream is maybe, like, for me, the best horror sequence ever.
I 100% agree.
I cry. I literally cry during it.
So sad.
Yeah, just the end with, like, her parents are right there and they're so close, and your house is supposed to be safe. It's, oh man, it's a lot. And I feel like it's just a master class in, like, the building of tension, and oh man.
Yeah, I love how funny it is too. Like the movie is just totally unafraid to just constantly make jokes. And sure, a bunch of it's dated now, but I think that's part of the charm of it too. Um, I mean, it also has like one of my favorite like sight gags ever when they have the janitor dressed as Freddy Krueger, and like he's out there cleaning the school after hours, and like Henry Winkler's principal comes out, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Freddy," and he's just like, "Hey." And it's just really great because Wes Craven, you know, created Freddy Krueger.
It's so good. I feel like it's the perfect primer for everybody who's getting into horror movies in the 90s, and it's it is so distinctly 90s in terms of its sort of cynicism and just, yeah, like the self-referential stuff. Like it I feel like it walks the perfect line between actually being a parody and a send-up of horror movies, but also being, like, hitting those horror moments legitimately well. So I just love it.
Hi. You know what I am? Say it. A Jew. Gesundheit.
Okay, so I'm going to transition into the main topic of conversation for today's episode, which is the new movie that's just come out, Jojo Rabbit, which is very, very exciting. It's Taika Waititi's new film. It is billed as a anti-hate satire. the main storyline is Jojo is a lonely German boy who discovers that his single mother is hiding a Jewish girl in their attic, aided only by his imaginary friend, Adolf Hitler. Jojo must confront his blind nationalism as World War II continues to rage on. That is the synopsis. I think I should probably... I feel like there's not too many things in this movie that are spoilery, but if you're one of those people who's diehard, like, I don't want to know anything, then I would say, like, fast forward or stop listening. I don't know. But yeah, so we'll dive right in. And yeah, so Jojo Rabbit had a ton of, maybe not a ton, that's a lot, but it had controversy going into this. I feel like some people felt like the satire went too far, where other people felt like it didn't go far enough. And I guess I'm curious to see what you guys thought when you first sort of heard about the idea, and then if your opinion changed once you actually saw it. And I guess we...
Yeah, sure. So going into it, when I like first heard the idea, like I heard the title and it was like Jojo Rabbit, and then it was a movie about a kid who was imaginary friends with Hitler, and I was like, what the hell is this all about? It just didn't make any sense to me as like a concept. But I was curious. I mean, I know I've seen a couple of Taika's films. Like I love What We Do in the Shadows. I think it's so great. And so I was just excited to see what he would do with, it seems like obviously a much bigger movie. And after seeing it, I don't like, there was that whole fiasco when a Disney executive said they thought it would be like too radical to put out or something like that. And everyone got worried that Disney was going to try to change it or something. And honestly, I mean, watching it, I never got the vibe that it was ever, too radical or too controversial. I think it's just people are really, really uncomfortable with the idea of Nazis and, the fact that they're, starting to pop up nowadays. I think that idea kind of drove a lot of the controversy, but I don't think anything in the film in and of itself is, super controversial.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I'm firmly in the camp that this is not a movie that people should be offended by.
Mm-hmm.
Jess, what do you think?
Okay, so when I first, I guess when, news broke that, Taika's making this movie and it's about this kid who's friends with Hitler in a way and his imaginary friend, and I mean, immediately I was optimistic from the start with this project because I was like, okay, in Taika we trust because I loved Thor Ragnarok. I haven't seen Hunt for the Wilder People or What We Do in the Shadows. I know I have to watch it, but I don't know. It's just seeing it, having seen it now. I actually saw it at the Nashville Film Festival, like a couple weeks ago. It doesn't really come out here until next week, I believe. But so I saw it at the festival, and I was like, yeah, this works. This, it's just this careful balance between, where you can insert this sort of bittersweet humor, I guess. And I guess it all falls under seeing it from a child's perspective because it's from Jojo's perspective, and he's, indoctrinated with, everything that's going on with Nazi Germany. And I don't know, it's really interesting because, you're indoctrinated and he's at such a young age. And he has a mother who, is an activist against the war and against what's happening in her country. So there's a lot of different perspectives, I think. And even with Thomas Mackenzie's character, there's a lot of different perspectives to see this. And he sort of makes it lighthearted. I understand it's adapted from a novel, I think, about it, that is more serious, actually. It's more dramatic, and Taika, I guess, just infuses Taika-ness, and it really works. It's really heartfelt and funny, but it actually means something in the end. So I really, really love it.
Yeah, I sort of went into this. I obviously trust Taika Waititi. I was like, yes, whatever you make, I'm gonna watch it. Probably gonna enjoy it. Let's do it. But I also, like, my academic background, like, I did my undergrad in, like, early 20th century European history, and, like, I did my senior thesis on, like, anti-Nazi youth movements in Germany during the war, so I was very like, yes, this is exactly what I want to watch all the time, just, like, this exact story. But I'm also, like, I was thinking so much about older movies, like To Be or Not to Be, and like other movie and Mel Brooks movies that have this sort of satire built in around Nazis and like, can you laugh at Nazis? Are you allowed to? Or are you supposed to show them, I don't know, quote unquote respect for their, like, not respect, but you know, like they're to be taken seriously. And I feel like this movie balances its tone so well, and it finds moments where it can really just make Nazism and any ideology based around hate look so absurd. But then it also taps into like human elements, like the relationships between the characters in a way that I find very compelling. And it's, I feel like it's just really well judged throughout. And I feel like one of the criticisms that I heard was people talking about it letting everyday Germans off easy, or like making it seem like, oh, you're not really a Nazi. Like, I guess with the Sam Rockwell character, who, surprise, surprise, is playing a racist with a heart of gold. But stuff like that, I think people were saying, like, it downplayed the consequences of their actions. But in a way, I felt like there was truth to that, because there is, like, a very real underbelly of sort of everyday resistance in Germany during this time period, where people maybe weren't resisting in super major ways, but they would look the other way when certain things would happen, and it was sort of more of a passive resistance, I guess I would say. And I think that is a lot of what you see in this movie is characters who maybe they believe the ideology, maybe they don't, but they're disillusioned and they're sort of just going through the motions, and there's a lot of characters who just don't seem like true believers. So I found that really interesting and nuanced in a way that a lot of these movies don't tend to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Sam Rockwell character actually, and I know he's kind of carved out this niche for himself of playing racists with Heart of Gold, like you said earlier, but I think he, like, his character continually like surprised me, like in this movie. Um, and I don't want to. Are we going full spoilers? I don't want to give like too much away here, but are we just kind of staying vague?
You know, you can say it, and if the powers that be decide it's too spoilery, they can cut it. Sorry, Sam, I'm giving you more work.
Yeah, so I mean, I just think, like you were talking about, little, passive ways of resisting, and I could be missing the mark here. But I think that scene they where Thomas Mackenzie's character is posing as Jojo's sister, and he has the papers, and he asked her for her birth date, and she gives the date, and he says it's okay, and then later you find out that she gave the wrong date, and he let it go anyway. I think a lot of with his character, even when we first meet him, like, he's like a goofball, but like I think it's alluded that he's just kind of, he's a high-ranking officer, but he's kind of disillusioned with the whole thing. Like, he's like, oh, I'm stuck out here with these kids, and we're gonna lose the war, but here we are, and he's just like drinking on the job, and he's like trying to make like funny costumes, and it's like, it's not like, he's obviously not a good guy, quote unquote, but I think he gets a little more range than he usually does in this role, and I think it's an interesting perspective for the movie to have, especially given how his arc ends.
Like, in contrast, to what we're seeing in the bad, or quote unquote bad characters, like Sam Rockwell's, you have Scarlett Johansson's character, who is, I guess, she lives like on the down low, sort of. You come to learn that she is actively, participating in, like, I don't know, in these sort of like, freedom fighters, against the war, against what's happening to her country, that, what she's grown to know and love is just being tarnished by, a just absurd war and this dictatorship. And I don't know, I think that part of her and what she's, giving to her son, and she knows that her son, like at the dinner table, she knows, she's like, oh, you're doing your thing, you're working under, I don't know, you're learning these things to fight the war, in a sense, but she still sort of imparts, her own playful, I guess, activism onto him. And I don't know, like, those moments with them are really heartwarming, and I think she brings a lot of light throughout.
So I guess we should like address like oh go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say we should just like address like the elephant in the room and like let's talk about Hitler.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
So grab a cup of coffee. Let's talk Hitler. So I thought it was really interesting. Like I described it to my friends. It's like, oh, if Hitler was from like the Boys and Girls Club, which like seems a bit disingenuous, but like that's kind of like the vibe that you get from him. Like he's talking to Jojo. He's like, "Hey, little man," and it's so goofy. And I think that's what Taika was really going for, and that like he just wanted to make this this awful, horrific person. Like he painted him in such a ridiculous light, where it's like he's saying things that like Hitler himself actually believed in, but like it's presented in such a way that you're like, yeah, like how could anyone not see this as ridiculous? And so I think to that effect, he really kind of achieved what he was setting out for, just like making this whole ideology just like completely insane.
Yeah, and like what does it say about the leader of a movement that by the end of this film, this 10-year-old kid has outgrown him and outgrown like what he stands for. Like even this kid who can barely tie his shoes can see through like what he stands for.
Oh
I
yeah,
think that's
Jojo and Hitler's last like confrontation is like great because it's just like when like Hitler comes like storming in and it's just like you're just like you just look sad, man. Like you just sound he sounds so beaten and like so ridiculous and you're holding on to nothing. And I mean I thought it was pretty powerful. Like you said, like this kid could outgrow him and this man's coming in and trying to be like, "Oh, like do this, believe me, believe this." And he's just like, "No, like you're just pathetic." And I think that was like a really powerful moment.
The way they wrapped it up, like you said, Jeff, like coming from the perspective of this young kid, it's just, I don't know, it's really, I don't know, it was really heartbreaking at times, and I was like tearing up in the theater, and I'm sure everyone around me was too, and just,
Yeah, I mean, I went away from like watching it, and I saw this last weekend at Film Fest 919, and it was like one of their big showcase movies, and so it was like packed. But I remember I left the theater and I was talking to someone about it, and it was like I can't think of a movie that I've seen that's quite like this one. Like I've seen satires and I've seen World War II movies, but it's like this one just feels really unique, and it has Taika's voice all over it. But I think his way of blending real world like things that actually happened that were horrifying with this lighthearted sense of fun and like wonder. I mean, more times than not, it really worked for me. I know I've seen people on Twitter who just they thought like the tone shifts were really jarring and things like that. But for me, it always felt like it clicked into place. I felt like the way that he mixed it, this like wonder mixed with these horrifying things and these terrible situations, he was able to meld them in a way that was just really, really powerful. And in the end, it was really beautiful too.
Yeah, and I think that tonal shifts in real life are not seamless. Like, there are times in life when things are hilarious and heartbreaking at the same time. And that's just the way things are sometimes. And so I feel like the fact that there's not always a smooth transition where, like, okay, this is the sad part of the movie and this is the funny part of the movie. I think that really works and is true.
Yeah, and like the movie doesn't like pull its punches either. Like there are parts of it that are like genuinely dark. Like there was one moment towards the end, and I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about, that involves Jojo like following a butterfly, and like when that moment happened, like it felt like the wind got sucked out of the theater. Like it just like Taika just knows when exactly to like let dramatic moments happen and like let them hang, and like the um the whole kind of like last bit where there's like all like the fighting and stuff going on, like it's scary. Like the fun isn't really anywhere to be found in there, and it's just scary. And I like that he knew, like this is a satire and it's supposed to be fun, but like when like real shit's going on, like he knew to like treat it like that, and I thought that was really admirable.
he knows what material he's working with, and he knows, like, this is World War II, this is Nazis, like, this shit is not funny, but he knows when to, like, bring it back home and, make us really look at it. Like when Jojo's mother, like, or Jojo's, yeah, like I think what you were saying, is that the part where he finds his mother, or what we were talking
Yeah.
about, the butterfly? Yeah, like you see just her shoes, and so many times before that, you did see her, just her shoes in the frame when she's talking to
Oh,
Jojo.
yeah.
And it's just like so clever, and you come to see it. You don't need to see her face. He doesn't need to show any more. Like you already know, and it's just like, ugh, brought tears to my eyes.
Despite the fact that the movie is sort of getting, I think the more people see this movie, the more of a positive reaction it's getting. But there is still some, like, some people don't love it. What do you guys think its Oscar chances are? Do we think this is a contender for Best Picture or for any of the acting categories?
Oh wow. I would really hope so. Like this movie is literally going to end up in my top 10 of the year. I already know that, but I hope it could make it to the Oscars, like Best Picture. I know like it's super. It seems to be super divisive on like Metacritic or like Rotten Tomatoes and such. Like ever since TIFF, ugh, I don't know really. I wouldn't. I don't know. I wouldn't bet on its Oscar chances. Like in a world, I would see like Scarlett Johansson, but you know she kind of has Marriage Story going for her, and she's amazing in that movie too. But ugh, I don't know. There's so much about this movie to love, though. Like, oh my gosh, and we haven't even like hit like its production design, its costume design. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, I honestly I think its chances are pretty good. I think if they play it right, like there's definitely a path for this to at least get, nominated. I think, cuz it's one, it's part war movie and we know the Academy loves war movies. But it's also super out there and super strange. I could definitely see it maybe getting some traction in like screenplay, and if it is like adapted, because screenplays are usually where the Academy gives out their awards to like weirder stuff. They're more experimental things. They usually acknowledge them there. Um, but yeah, I think again, I think you guys are right. Like as more people start to see it, I think the reception will grow more positive. Um, I think it has a path though. I do wish that it would. I don't think there's anything really going for it with acting, just because those fields are already so stacked. Um, I mean, in a perfect world, um, the lead actor who plays Jojo, Roman Griffin Davis, would get a nod because that kid is going to be a star. Like he's terrific. Yeah, he is awesome in this movie, and I also really just love Scarlett Johansson's character. Like I've never seen her play a role like this, like warm before. Like it's just she's just a delight like whenever she's on screen. And so, I mean, she's going to get nominated for Marriage Story because she is terrific in that. But, in a perfect world, she'd get some love for this one too.
Yeah, I agree, especially about her warmth in this role is something that I haven't really seen from her a lot before. I think, yeah, I think its strongest chances for acting are her and Thomas and Mackenzie in supporting, but I don't really think that's gonna happen. But it could. And I feel like it, depending on how its reception goes for the next, once it actually hits theaters, it's like it's so crazy that we all talk about these movies and they haven't really been released yet. So it's like, because we've seen them or seen some of them. But I think next week and the following week will be a good indicator of if there's enough support for it to go for Best Picture. I think it definitely has a path. But yeah, it'll be exciting to see. And I just hope that it doesn't get the controversial elements of it don't overshadow its merits because I think it has a lot of merits and I would hate for those to be ignored.
And honestly, I think that could be the narrative here. Like they, people used that last year for Green Book, and I mean, wherever your feelings stand on that one, I know that one is crazy divisive, and it certainly wasn't my choice for Best Picture. But like that's kind of the narrative they use, where it's like, oh, it's so timely, it's of the times, it speaks to everyone, and this is far and away a better movie than that. So I think they could definitely, they could definitely like adopt that narrative. I think that there's a path for it to at least get nominated for Best Picture, and I hope it does.
Yeah, and I think we sort of we don't focus as much on like likability as we probably should in terms of like who gets nominated. And I feel like there's not a person alive who doesn't like Taika Waititi, like in the industry and just everyday life. Like everybody likes him. And so I feel like that plays a role in people wanting to see him succeed and wanting his projects to do well. So I think that's a factor too.
Yeah, he's definitely one of like the more like exciting like voices in movies today. And so I hope this seems like his chance to kind of, well, obviously, he got like his quote unquote like break with like Marvel giving him Thor. But I think this is where people truly see him as like, someone with a distinct voice, for like a wider audience to see that.
So, if the idea that like a director can get a Marvel movie and then after that sort of have carte blanche to do the projects that he wants, then I'm very excited about the idea of indie directors taking on Marvel movies. I know a lot of people feel like Marvel is sucking in so many interesting directors and making them do kind of carbon copy blockbusters. But I feel like if they then get to do the things that Taika Waititi gets to do now that he has some more cred behind his name in Hollywood, then I'm all for it because I love the idea of these directors making passion projects.
Oh, absolutely. It can be really empowering if they, if Disney allows it to be. But I mean, even Taika said that he wanted to make this movie, forever. And then, the past, year or two, it finally got greenlit. So, hopefully that's the case with more directors like you were saying. I think that'd be really cool. Like everyone should go support movies like this. Like this is, like a small, like mid-budget, like radical, like satire, where a man from New Zealand plays Adolf Hitler. Like just go see this movie. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, I think at the box office it actually came in number 1 in all theaters that it played at in New York. So there is some really promising exposure for this film, and it's so good. It needs to be seen. If it's playing around you, please go seek it out.
Before we go, do you guys have anything that you would like to plug?
I guess, well, the website, jumpcutonline.co.uk. I think we still have all of our LFF reviews on the main page there, and it's really great reads of all the latest releases. Well, not latest, or soon to be released, sort of, like Knives Out. I think the Irishman review is up on our website and stuff like that. So please go check us out.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I don't have like a SoundCloud or anything to plug, so I guess just check out the website.
Thank you to everybody for listening. We had a great time talking about Jojo Rabbit and Scream and candy corn, which is the best candy. I don't want to hear about it.
Wait a minute.
Nope, it's over. We all decided. We took a vote. So tune in next time when it looks like they will be discussing Dr. Sleep, which is exciting. Yeah, so definitely check that out. I'm sure it'll be a great episode back over on our UK side of the operations. So thank you to Jessica and Jeff for being here today.
Thanks. It was fun talking Halloween.
Thanks for having us.
So glad to have you guys here. It's nice to have our US-based crew. So I'm Audrey. I'm signing off, and thank you for listening.